Very good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of Newsmax Prime. I'm Rick Blackwell, in for J.D. Hayworth, who is on assignment. Great to have you with us. Of prime interest tonight, Joe says no. Vice President Joe Biden making that long-awaited announcement that he will not run for president in the Rose Garden earlier today, saying he feels like his window to run has closed. Now, he made that announcement with President Obama by his side. However, he did say he would not merely be a spectator, but would push for a continuation of the policies of President Obama.
Unfortunately, I believe we're out of time, the time necessary to mount a winning campaign for the nomination. But while I will not be a candidate, I will not be silent. I intend to speak out clearly and forcefully to influence as much as I can where we stand as a party and where we need to go as a nation. This party, our nation, will be making a tragic mistake if we walk away or attempt to undo the Obama legacy. The American people have worked too hard, and we've come too far for that.
Joined at the anchor desk by Miranda Kahn. Joe says no. Kind of a bit of a surprise. We were talking about it off camera a little bit.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I would have thought he was going to run prior to seeing that first Democratic debate, but after that, I didn't think he was going to put his name in the hat.
Interesting. Let's talk to Richard Viguerie, chairman of conservativehq.com. Richard, thanks as always for joining us here on Newsmax Prime. Want to talk to you about this. The vice president mentioned a couple of reasons why he's not getting in. What did you think was the deciding factor, and did the announcement surprise you?
Well, I agree with Miranda. I think that I expected Biden to run before the Democratic debate, but after that it was clear that nobody had the interest or desire to really go after her on the issues that were available to them. So it looked like the window for Biden closed after that debate, which is a little, I have mixed feelings. I think it's better for Republicans, conservatives, to run against Hillary. She's got a lot of baggage that we all know about. And I'm anxious for the campaign to start and discuss some of those issues. But Biden would have been a good candidate to run against, too, because the only way Biden could have run is as the third term of Obama. And that would have been a fun campaign, too.
Richard, I have to ask you, as you know, tomorrow Hillary Clinton will testify in front of the House Select Committee on Benghazi. Does today's announcement, in your opinion, point to her escaping legal trouble for both Benghazi and for her email scandal?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Miranda. It may, you've got to believe that the FBI is keeping Obama current on their activities, and whatever Obama knows about the FBI activities, Biden probably knows too. So maybe he knows something, and that he felt that there was not an opening for him at this time. So I think it's just good for conservatives, good for Republicans. We've got a known candidate. Yeah, I think the last thing in the world we want is something new and shiny, so to speak. I think we need to keep the focus on the Obama administration and Hillary's track record.
All right, one more quick one on the Democratic side. Do you think this is all over now? Do you think Hillary Clinton pretty much wrapped up the nomination, or do you think that Bernie Sanders is going to continue to challenge her?
Well, certainly Sanders will continue to challenge her. I doubt he got into this race thinking he was going to be the nominee. He had, a message he wanted to get to the American people. He wanted to educate the American people. He had a different agenda, and there's no reason that I can think of for him to get out of the race. I think he's advancing his cause. He's exciting a lot of people at the grassroots, progressive, liberal Democrats, and I think he'll stay here. There's no upside for him to get out. And I think it will hurt the Democrats, quite frankly, because it continues to kind of cement the brand of the Democrats as a hard left party. And the better he does, the more Hillary's going to have to move towards his position. So she's going to have to keep moving left to be successful, head his nomination off. So I think this is good for the Republicans. If he stays in, it's going to more solidify the brand of the Democrats as being a hard far left out of the mainstream of American politics.
Richard, I want to switch gears now and talk about another race, this one for House Speaker. John Boehner also held a news conference today, and he had this to say about one of the frontrunners for that very position. Take a listen.
We all know Paul Ryan, right? he's a very good member. He works hard, he's very bright, and he has good relationships, I think, with all the wings of the party. So that's why I think he'll be doing fine.
All right, you just heard John Boehner there. Richard, you along with many other conservatives don't necessarily agree with electing Paul Ryan as Speaker of the House. Tell us why.
Well, as the Speaker Boehner just said, we all know Paul Ryan. Yes, a nicer person you're not likely to meet, a better next-door neighbor, best buddy, you probably couldn't find. But in terms of his policies, he's got an establishment, big government Republican view, which means basically, open borders, or we're not going to worry about the invasion that's happening right now. It's terrifying most Americans. He's wrong on expanding government, and so he wants more power than Boehner has right now. The grassroots, not just the members of the Freedom Caucus, the Liberty Caucus, but the grassroots of Americans, white hot with anger at the leadership of the Republican Party and their abuse of power. Now we're going to have somebody come into the office who wants more power to do more expansion of government. I don't think so. I don't think the grassroots will tolerate that.
Well, you mentioned that power, Richard. Paul Ryan gave a list of demands for him to consider taking the speaker role, saying he wanted unanimous public support from various House factions. That includes the influential House Freedom Caucus, wants to eliminate the motion to vacate procedure, a rarely used but powerful tool that could be used to threaten his speakership, wants exemption from some travel and time demands so he can return home on the weekends. I tell you what, we should all have so much power as we're trying to get a job out there. But what are your thoughts? Shouldn't a leader want to fight for his position and not be crowned? What are your thoughts about these demands from Paul Ryan?
Yeah, he's asking to be coronated as dictator. That's ridiculous. I just can't seriously believe that the limited government principled conservatives, and there are a lot of them in the House, are going to roll over and agree to a massive expansion of government. I just think that to Paul Ryan, I'm kind of glad to see him make these outrageous demands, because it probably reduces the chances of him assuming the position of Speaker. We don't need a dictator. We've got a dictator in the White House right now. We don't need a dictator in the House of Representatives. And I think that he's just overreached by these outrageous demands. And I think the conservatives at the grassroots are just, they've got their eye on this vote here. This is going to be a very public vote. And if you vote for expansion of government, which is a vote that you'll be casting if you vote for Ryan, you're putting a big bullseye politically on you. And I think that a lot of these members of the Congress that vote for Ryan are going to find themselves in a very serious primary challenge very quickly here. The most important election now is not November for 85–90% of these people. It's in March, April, May, June, in the primary season. And they're putting a big bullseye on them when they vote for Paul Ryan.
So if it's not Ryan, who do you think should be the next speaker?
There's many qualified conservatives that represent the majority of the Republican Party base out there. Jim Jordan of Ohio would be an outstanding speaker choice. Jeb Hensarling, congressman from Texas. Louis Gohmert from Texas. There's many out there. And I think that if the party wants to win in November, the number one thing, Miranda, they have to do, maybe above everything else, is be united. And they haven't been united in a long time. You've got a few in Washington that are the establishment Republicans dictating to the grassroots. And the grassroots is white hot with anger, as we see with the Trump support out there, the Ben Carson, the Ted Cruz support. And I think, as the Bible tells us, Lincoln told us, that a house divided cannot stand. Today, the Republican Party is a house divided. And if you want to win in November, you're going to have to unite the party. And you cannot do that by being dictatorial and telling the grassroots to be quiet, shut up while we expand government and ignore the border.
Richard, I want to ask you, because obviously House members will vote to pick the next speaker. American public will vote to pick the next president. Donald Trump, Ben Carson. I mean, it just seems like every new poll that comes out, they are continuing to be 1 and 2. Are you surprised at their success?
I have to say so, yes. I don't think I expected either one of them to be where they are in the polls 3, 4, 5 months ago. However, I think that as we get closer to having to actually choose the next president, I think someone who's more of an established political figure is going to rise. I think that the one that's probably going to surprise most people, I think, is Ted Cruz. I think he's got a powerful operation in many of the early states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. I think he's going to be a real shocker to a lot of people here. And I think that's the candidate to watch over everybody else.
Richard Viguerie, thank you so much for joining us on Prime. Always good to speak with you. And another programming reminder, part 3 of Ed Berliner's exclusive interview with Senator and 2016 GOP presidential hopeful Rand Paul airs later tonight. Ed asked Senator Paul what the Republican Party has to do to win. Here's what he had to say.
Until the Republican Party looks like the rest of America, black, white, rich, poor, with earrings and without earrings, with tattoos and without tattoos, until we look like the rest of America, working class folks in our party thinking that what we're offering is the best for working class people, until that happens, we're not going to win again.
Hear more on the Hard Line tonight at 9.